Hello everybody, my name is Steven and welcome back to the Storytime channel. Without wasting any time, let's get into our stories of the day. In-laws kick me out. Significant other follows. This happened 3 years ago. My boyfriend slash significant other and I started dating, and I had been renting somewhere while he lived with his family. Parents, sister, and brother. Boyfriend is oldest, sis is my age, 1 year younger than BF, and brother is much younger than us. Naturally, I started sleeping over and all was well. My boyfriend's mom eventually gave me a shelf thing for my clothes so I wouldn't have to live out of a bag. As a quick background, my boyfriend's family are very close. Too close in my opinion. Despite him being well into his 20s, he was expected to go to every single event to which his family was invited and expected to do anything and everything his parents asked. I.e., they were lazy and he had to take care of his little brother. In other words, the first 2 years of our relationship, I had to leave my apartment and I lived with him and his family because he was expected to do everything his family did and I wanted to hang out with him and spend time. Call me naive and in love. His sis, same age as me, 23 at the time, had a boyfriend sleep on her bedroom floor one night and the parents were not happy. I had been living there by then. You know how it goes when it comes to sons versus daughters and sleepovers. The parents threatened that I would have to move out because they're not okay with the sister having boys over. I said okay, but that you're coming with me. He agreed, but it was never brought up again. 2 years later, sister gets a boyfriend. Her boyfriend begins to sleep over and all is fine for like another year or two. So I'd been living with my boyfriend and his family for like 4 years by now. I'm graduating with my degree in my career field, post-bachelor, and boyfriend and I have plans to stay for another 6 months to make money and move out. A month before I graduate, my boyfriend tells me his parents told him and his sis, "We don't feel comfortable with your other halves being here with little brother being around." And they blame it on religion, despite their marriage being 3 years after having 2 kids. But they reassure my boyfriend and his sis, "Oh, but you too don't have to move out." Y'all, we moved out in the next week to my brother's house and didn't see them for 3 months. They were shook. They had a big blow up at a barbecue with my boyfriend, awkward as freak, about how my boyfriend doesn't love them and he ditched them. His response? "You kicked my girlfriend out, what did you expect? She left, and so did I." Edit because of comments. Before I moved in, my boyfriend and his sis didn't pay any rent or anything for the house. When I moved in, I made sure we paid for things. I told my boyfriend to tell his parents we'll pay rent and we ended up paying half of the rent, while the sister paid the phone bill. We bought groceries, still did chores, took care of the little brother, etc. We didn't freeload. The boyfriend sounds like a keeper to me. If you were in this situation and the parents said you had to move out all of a sudden, what would be your go-to? Let me know in the comments below. Our policy says we can give all products away for free to the 4th waiting in line, so I did. Context: I work at a local supermarket as a low-wage cashier and this happened at the beginning of this year. Our supermarket chain decided that in 2020, there should be less people on the work floor because they wanted to reduce wage costs. Now, that wouldn't be such a bad idea if they didn't apply it to busy days, and I work on the busy days. You should also know that at my supermarket, we have a rule that the 4th person waiting in line gets all their stuff in the basket completely for free unless all regular checkouts are occupied. In our supermarket, there are 3 regular checkouts, but usually they are not all occupied. It was a busy Saturday and I was the only one behind a checkout. My boss is currently working and also another fellow employee. It's around 10 a.m. and it usually gets really busy around 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. There are 3 customers at my checkout and I start to get a bit nervous and ask through my earpieces that somebody needs to open up another checkout. My boss, she is a nice boss by the way, I don't have any grudge against her, tells me that everything is fine. Alright then, everything is fine. It gets even busier and there are now 5 or 6 people at my checkout. Boss is dealing with the self-scanner customers and the other employee is at the alcohol checkout. The alcohol checkout is a separate checkout. I tell my boss that someone really needs to open up a new checkout or I'm going to have to start handing out free goods to everyone. She tells me not to and just sends people to an empty checkout. This works well because most people in my city are not even aware of the fourth in line rule, so it is a good way to prevent giving away free products. Alright then, I sent customer number 4 through now 7 to an empty checkout. New customers are now taking in the places of the people who I just sent away, and they started looking mad at me. Understandable. After a couple minutes, still nobody has opened the other checkout because they are also handling a lot of people. I decide to just follow the policy and give people what they are entitled to. Sir, did you know that you were fourth in line? Fourth in line gets everything for free, so here you go. I scan the next products. Miss, everything here is free. Have a wonderful day. Next person comes, I scan the products. Everything is free. Have a nice day. I still had to scan the products, but it actually gets rid of the queue really fast because I'm quite good at scanning everything fast. It's just that a lot of people in the city are elderly who are really slow at paying and packing up. Either they can't see the numbers well or they don't remember the number combination for their card. I also gave the people who I sent away and came back everything for free. After the whole thing, my boss asked me why I was giving everyone everything for free, and I simply stated that I'm following the rules. But I told you to send them to an empty checkout. Yes, and then they came back to me because nobody was going to open a checkout. Then she walked away mad, probably because they just lost a bunch of money. Now they have decided that more people should be working on busy days, and I'm glad. I also hope those customers enjoyed their free products. America would never have a policy like that at any store that I would know of, but I'd love to shop there if there was a shop like that. Argued with the police to get into jail. The cop got suspended. A little background on me. I used to get into a lot of trouble with the law due to drug use and things associated with it like possession charges and retail theft. So one day, while I was high as heck, I went to Kohl's and for whatever reason, ended up stealing a belt. Yes, a belt. I know, what a waste of time and energy. But anyways, I walked out wearing it and was approached by a loss prevention officer who asked me to come back into the store, which I did. I was taken to their office and took the belt off. While in there, the girl who apprehended me asked for my ID, which I told her I did not have on me as it was in my car. At that point, I got up and just walked out of the office and headed towards my car. She pleaded with me to return, but I kept walking to my car and left. About 6 months later, my wife and I were planning to move, so I decided to call the sheriff's department just to check and see if I had any warrants. I was curious if charges were ever filed for the theft of the belt. To my surprise, the lady told me I had 2 warrants, none for theft, but for misdemeanor battery. The girl at Kohl's said I somehow touched or pushed her, which absolutely wasn't true. So I called my lawyer and she set up a time through the prosecutor for me to come to court and turn myself in. I was gonna go before the judge to get my bond set, then bond out. The plan was for me to arrive at the county jail between 3 and 4 a.m. the day of my court date because the judge wanted me processed in the system prior to going before him. It was mid-January in Illinois and was extremely cold the morning of my court date. My wife and I drove to the jail around 4 a.m. and I hit the doorbell to be let in. They buzzed me in and the officer met me in the lobby. He asked why I was there and told them the story and what my lawyer had set up. This is where it got weird. The officer started trying to talk me out of turning myself in. This was a $50,000 warrant and he started coming up with excuse after excuse for me to go away. There's not enough people there to process me. It only takes one. The floor is cold. I'll be waiting for hours to get it finished. I won't be able to sleep, etc. He is doing whatever he could for me to walk away. I was in shock and honestly don't think anyone would believe me had my wife not been there and had it not been video/audibly recorded. So I went home and went to sleep. That morning I ended up going to court and my lawyer is like, "What the freak? Why didn't you turn yourself in as planned?" I told her the story and she in turn told the judge and prosecutor. They were livid. They asked me who the officer was. Of course, I made sure to write his name down, and his supervisor was called to the courtroom. Turns out he had some other issues and this incident was the last straw. He ended up getting suspended about a week later, and I ended up having the charges dropped because they were false anyways. So happy ending all around. For as great as that ending was to this false claim of battery, it must have been nice that they didn't have to get processed after all. I teach my lazy dad a lesson. Cast: me, my dad, my sister. Story: I'm 17 and I do my share of chores around the house. Have been doing for years. They involve taking out the trash, mopping the whole house, etc. One evening I was mopping the dining room and the living area, common room, when it started raining lightly. My dad was outside and called me to take down the clothes from the clothesline outside that was left to dry. Since I was busy, I called my sister to do it. Note that the clothes were not mine at all. They belonged to my mom, my sister, and my dad. I had left my mom's and sister's clothes to dry. Not my usual chore, just helping. My sister is mostly a lovely person and goes out to do it. Then my dad yells at her and tells her that it's raining. It's barely raining, just a few drops here or there. So I go outside and he's sitting there fidgeting on his iPad. I'm kind of pissed off and this convo follows. Could you please do it this once? I'm actually mopping the floor. Dad says no. Why not? You're simply sitting here and I'm doing something else. Dad says, "'Cause I don't want to." Yes, he said that. You left them out to dry, so it's your responsibility. Those are not even my clothes. Dad says, "So? None of my business." I quit trying and went to do it. That's when I noticed his clothes were also there. Cue the malicious compliance. He said it was my responsibility because I let the clothes out to dry, but I didn't leave his clothes out. So I took down my sister's and mom's clothes and let his clothes remain. He was so immersed in his iPad he didn't notice. Conclusion: all of his pants were there and they got wet. It's rainy season where I live, so good luck with drying those pants. Although I don't regret it, my mom said what I did was very wrong. Am I the a-hole? So let me get this straight. OP was mopping, was called to take down the clothes from the clothesline because it was raining, asked their sister to because they were busy with mopping. The dad refuses to let the sister take it down because it's raining, but then says it's OP's responsibility because they left the clothes up there to dry originally. I think it's kind of petty to leave his clothes up there, but I also think that either he or the sister should have been allowed to help. There's a little give and take. They were doing mopping. The least you could do is go and pull some clothes off the clothesline. I took the test already, so happy summer. Okay, this happened back in high school and I'm still laughing at the distraught look on the teacher's face. First of all, my senior year I took AP classes. When you take the AP classes and the following tests at the end of the year, we were exempt from the final exam of that class. So in my case, I had 5 AP courses and 2 easy classes, journalism and theater. So after suffering through the AP tests, I would be free of high school, no worries. So that year we got a new teacher. First day of class, he introduced himself. "I worked hard for my doctorate, so you will refer to me as Dr. Bob. I was also a professor at 2 colleges and a junior college." Me, being a smart bud, raised my hand and asked him if I could refer to him as Dr. Professor Bob. Of course, he wasn't having it and had it out for my butt the whole year. With intros down, it's time to begin the downward spiral. Our school had a field day event and I didn't want to go. The school was selling tickets to the event and I didn't want to pay for that, so I decided to stay at the school and just watch YouTube for hours. When it was time to leave, Professor Bob required everyone to sign a piece of paper saying whether they were going or not. I signed the sheet and went about my business. My friend walked by and told me that she and others were going to go to a friendly teacher's room and watch movies with snacks. I figured that would be better than YouTube and figured I'd join them. I asked how they got permission and they said that they bought tickets to bail from Professor Bob and just signed the sheet to get away from him so that they could just explore campus to the friendly teacher. I tried to do the same but screwed up when he asked, "Where did you get a ticket when they stopped selling an hour ago?" I then threw my friend under the bus and said I got his ticket and that he would be in friendly teacher's room. Professor side-eyed me and said, "Alright, sounds good." Get to the teacher's room and we all sign a sheet saying that we are in her room. Cue a phone call from Professor Bob. He asks where my friend is because I used my name instead of his on the sign sheet. Professor threatens to call police because of the misunderstanding due to friend being AWOL. I sprint across campus to stop the phone call and I fix the situation. He smugly says, "Well, even though you told the truth and fixed this problem, you still lied to me, so you're getting detention." I was devastated as getting detention meant I was required to take all the exams at the end of the year. Months go by and I get an idea. I go to the principal and ask about the fine print. Being cool and friends, he reiterates that since I paid for the AP exams and taking them, I am not required to take the final regular tests. I get him to write it on paper and sign it. I take it to Professor Bob after the AP exams and tell him due to the rules stated taking them, I'm not required to take his final. He is flabbergasted and annoyed, swallows his anger and says have a great summer, as I see him crumple up the exam that was meant for me later that week. First of all, imagine having to pay for tickets to field day. Secondly, it sucks that the teacher had it so out for OP despite them just trying to make a simple joke. But with that being said, that's all the stories we have for today, so what I want to know is which of these stories that I've read for you today are your personal favorite and why? Let me know in the comment section down below. And thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel today. If you haven't yet already, please consider subscribing to the Storytime channel and don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. Thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.